Well, I'd like to first of all go on record and say this is completely unfair because not only am I going first, I've got to follow that guy. So it doesn't really doesn't bode well for me. But I want to talk tonight about three things. I want to talk about influence, I want to talk about story, and I want to talk about paper towels. Okay? And so I know when I say the word influence, that is an overused word, and I can almost feel the collective air leave the place. You guys are, ugh. Another person is going to talk to me about influence, going to talk to me about how I can change the world, and that's not really what this is about. But influence is an overused word, right? It's something that we talk about way, way too much, but I don't think we think about it enough. Okay? And so if you look at the definition for influence, it is the capacity to have an effect on the character development or behavior of someone or something. Okay? The capacity to have an effect on the character development or behavior of someone or something. Okay, with that in mind, I want you to think about the most influential person you can think of. Okay? The most influential person you can think of. What has he or she done or said or created that has been so meaningful? Okay? And then I want you to think about the most influential person in your life. Who's the most influential person in your life? Why are they so influential? What have they done, said, or created, or allowed you to do, say, or become that's so meaningful? And we're going to get back to that in just a second, but I want to talk a little bit about why influence is so important to me. I'm in advertising. It was just mentioned I'm in advertising. Advertising is all about influence, right? It's all about creating something, creating a tagline, creating a campaign, creating a concept that delivers on influence. Okay, there's two different ways that I look at influence in advertising, and that is gaining attention for something or garnering intention for something, right? Gaining attention for something is, hey, look at me, look at this product, look at this shiny new thing. Please look, please buy it, right? And then there's garnering intention, which is more about inviting someone into a conversation, into a relationship that means something. That's where story comes in, right? I have been in advertising for almost 20 years, chasing after that thing, whatever it may be, and creating concepts, creating copy. I'm a writer, I'm a brand strategist, I'm a guy who's always engaged in what is influential, what is going to make a difference, what's going to allow someone to do something, be something, feel something, buy something that they might not have been thinking about before. My first job was as a junior copywriter here at a Christian marketing firm here in Birmingham. And for 3 years, I kept writing the same thing over and over and over and over and over. And I'm doing this on purpose because it was miserable. And over again. I kept writing the same things in different ways over and over again. Now what I'm about to say might sound somewhat blasphemous, but I actually got tired of selling Jesus. I got tired of selling Jesus because selling Jesus and believing in Jesus is different. If you ask me about my personal relationship with Christ, I can go all day long, but selling Jesus is different. You've got your King of Kings, your Prince of Peace. You've got your way, the truth, and the life. You've got your beginning and the end. You've got your Alpha and Omega. You've got the Son of God, the Lamb of God, the Son of Man, the Rock. All of these different things. I became bored with it. Now, hear me out. I became bored with it because I was dealing with it every single day and trying to influence people in different ways, saying the same things. Right? After about 3 years, I realized it was time for me to move on and begin thinking about other things, writing about other things. Over the years, I've worked in Nashville, I've worked in Birmingham, I've worked in Atlanta, I've worked in Greenville, South Carolina, back to Nashville, back to Birmingham, back to Atlanta. Now I'm back in Birmingham again, working for an agency, and my whole career has been chasing after influence, trying to figure out what is that thing that's going to make somebody be in awe of whatever I'm writing about. Over the years, I've gotten to do some pretty cool stuff. I've won some awards. I've had some things featured in magazines. I had a spot last month that ran during the Grammys, and that was pretty cool. But the majority of the stuff I do, most of the things that I do either ends up in a desktop folder on my computer or in the nearest garbage can. Right? It's a humbling thing, chasing after influence. Like I said, influence, in my opinion, is most effective when you are garnering intention, when you're telling great stories, when you're inviting people into a relationship that means something to them. And so with that in mind, I'll tell you a little bit about my story. Okay? I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, one of 4 kids. I have an older sister, 2 younger brothers. a wonderful, wonderful mother, a great, incredible father, parents who loved their kids, a husband and wife who loved each other immensely and intensely until the day he died. Okay, my dad was an incredible guy. He was a remarkable guy. He was great at everything he ever tried. He was a successful business owner. He was a successful dad, a successful deacon, a great husband. He was great at everything he tried. He was also a great athlete. He played receiver for Vanderbilt University back in the 1960s. They weren't very good back then either. But he was evidently great. He was evidently great. And he was also an avid runner. Okay? And so he was actually training for his 6th marathon when he went to the doctor for a pre-race checkup. Okay? He was in front of the doctor, and the doctor said, "Bob, you are in great shape. You look incredible. You've got the physique of a 25-year-old. Blood pressure 120/80. You are in great shape. Everything looks great, but you might want to get the twitching in your arm looked at." And so over the next couple of days, he saw a couple of specialists and found himself about 3 days later looking eye to eye with a neurologist. And the neurologist said, "Bob, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have amyotrophic lateral sclerosis." My dad said, "Huh. Okay, but can I run in the race or not?" And the doctor said, "No, I don't think you understand. This is a big deal. You have a progressive neurological disorder. It's a disease. You have Lou Gehrig's disease." My dad said, "Wow, that is a big deal. Lou Gehrig was incredible. Lou Gehrig was the best of the best. He played with Babe Ruth. They called this guy the Iron Horse. He played in over 2,000 consecutive baseball games, 15 years without missing a single turn at bat. He was incredible, the best of the best. I've got what he had." And then 18 months later, he was gone. My dad left 4 kids, a wife, a business, a church community, a home community. He left all that behind. He was 41 years old. Today I'm 43. I'm 2 years older than he was when he died. I have a 16-year-old daughter, the same age I was when he passed away. And it's now, well, I also have 4 other kids, right? We talked about that, or they talked about that a second ago. I've got 5 kids. 5 kids. I've got a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 16-year-old. I love almost all of them. But it's now that they're beginning to grow up, they're becoming the people that they were created to be, that I'm starting to understand what real influence is all about. It has nothing to do with advertising. It has nothing to do with marketing. It has to do with the people I surround myself with. I've got 5 kids who I can have an everyday, all the time, forever impact on. I think it's something my dad figured out right before he died. A couple of months before he died, I tried out for the basketball team at my high school. I did not make the basketball team at my high school, and I can go on record today and say I should not have made the basketball team at my high school. I was not a very good basketball player. But I was devastated. I was very upset, and my dad, by virtue of that, was upset for me, right? And so late that night, after I had gone to bed, he sat at the kitchen table, and he wrote me a note. Taped it to the outside of my bedroom door so that I could find it the next morning. The interesting thing about him writing that note was that he had to scribble it, literally scribble it with his left hand, because a couple of months earlier he'd lost the use of the right side of his body. So he sat at the dinner table writing me a note. He taped it to the outside of my door, and I woke up to find this. It says, "Hey buddy, today's going to be a great day. It's your day. No one and nothing can make it anything other than you want it to be. If the weather calls for rain, decide now that you'll enjoy being wet. If the test score is low, work hard to make sure the next one's higher. If treated unfairly for something, smile and be thankful for the many things you've not been caught for. Attitude is everything. Today is not yet anything. So fill it with laughter." And that was a pretty cool thing for me to get that day after a huge defeat in my life. I was able to get this note, and it meant a lot to me that day. It means even more to me now. And after he died, I actually kept the note with me. I put it in my pocket. I carried it in my backpack. And over the really weeks probably, it disintegrated. I lost it. It went away. But the message didn't. The message stayed. Okay, and the beautiful thing about that is I think about every single week, not every day, but every week I think about my dad and what he must have been going through when he wrote that note. He was almost on his deathbed. He was thinking of me. He was sitting there scribbling, forcing himself to write me a note about attitude, about perspective. And so he wasn't trying to change the world that night. He was just trying to change my day. And he did. And he does. And it continues to change my day just about every week. Right? And so, like I said, I got 5 kids. My wife and I never really talked about having kids before we got married. We just started having them. They just kept coming one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. It was pretty incredible. She was like a Pez dispenser. But and I used to joke that we had so many kids because I'm so desirable. But that joke gets less and less funny the older and fatter and thinner up here I get. But I've got 5 kids now, and I write them notes too. So I almost have to be the guy who writes them the notes because my wife is not a morning person. Okay, she is beautiful. She is wonderful. She is perfect in almost every way, but she hates the mornings. She feels like the morning should start at 10 a.m. and if it did, she would still be an hour and a half late, right? So I'm relegated to be the guy who gets them ready for school, and part of that process is making their lunches. When I make their lunches, I write them a little note, I put it in amongst their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, fruit snacks, and the bruised bananas and whatnot. And it's just something I've done for a couple of years that it's just meant to make them feel better. It's meant to make them smile. It's meant to make them be encouraged because they have a test or something. And they love it when I do this. I found out recently that my 10-year-old keeps them all. She's got a box underneath her dresser with over 100 napkin notes in there. That's pretty cool. Well, about 3 months ago, it was actually the end of October, I wrote a note I thought was particularly insightful. A lot of dad wisdom involved in this note. And so I took a picture of it before I packed the lunch. And I packed the lunch, I sent them off to school, and later that day I posted it to Instagram. Okay? And this was the note that I posted to Instagram. It says, "Remember, every time you smile, a mean kid gets diarrhea." Okay? That's wisdom, y'all. That is special, right? So I was pretty proud of myself, and I got a bunch of people liking it and laughing and LOLs and whatnot online. So the next day, I posted another note. It says, "You might not be as smart as your sister, but she can't eat gluten, so you win." And I started posting these things because they were gaining traction, and people started laughing at them, and people started sharing them, and people started asking me to please write another one. Please write another. It's like, I write them every day. It's not a big deal. So I started posting them over and over. Please eat all your carrots. They're supposed to make you smart, and you need all the help you can get. I hope you enjoy your lunch because Mom is cooking dinner. There's another one that says, "The black spots on your banana are kind of like battle scars. You are about to eat a very, very brave banana." And then things I love more than you, that's all, right? And so I started posting these things, and it was amazing because I started getting people that I haven't talked to in years texting me or messaging me and saying, "I saw one of your stupid napkins on my friend's Facebook wall, and I haven't talked to them in 12 years, and now they live in Iowa." And then more and more people. So I went from a couple of hundred Instagram followers to several thousand Instagram followers in a matter of a couple of weeks. I went from the Facebook album that I started putting these things in has now been shared over 40,000 times. There's a Facebook fan page for Napkinisms. Right? Bloggers are writing about this stuff. Women's Day magazine, I've always been popular with the women, but the Women's Day magazine wrote an article about it. It was amazing, and I couldn't get over it. As a marketer, as an advertising guy, I could not believe that potentially the most powerful thing I ever write is something about diarrhea, or toenails, or making fun of my wife's cooking. I couldn't figure it out. So I started reading the comments, and the comments were just as amazing, right? The comments were people remembering characters in their life who had inspired them, people who had taken the time to do something small that had made a big deal to them, a big difference in their life. So these small acts build over time, and people started talking about it. There were people saying, I remember when my dad used to do that, or people saying, I wish my mom had done that. There was a lady in Texas who said, you're making me reconsider my decision not to have children. I had no idea having a family could be so much fun. There are lots and lots of people who are impacted by these. And really? No, it's not what I'm writing on the notes. It's the fact that I am writing the notes, right? It's not what I'm writing. It's that I'm writing them, right? And so let's get back real quick. I don't think I have very much time, but let's get back real quick to the questions I asked at the beginning of this thing. All right? Who has impacted you the most? Who's influenced you the most? For me, it would be my father. Okay? My dad had 41 years on this planet. 16 of those were spent with me. But he made the most of that time. There was not a night that I went to bed that I didn't know he loved me. There was not a day that I went to school that I didn't think he was thinking about me. He used the most of the time that he had. Okay? Now, as far as the most influential person I know, I hope it's me. Okay? And I hope that you can say the same thing. I have 5 kids. I have a beautiful wife. I have coworkers. I have clients. I have church family. There's people I interact with every single day that I have an opportunity to make an influence on. So I hope the answer to that question can be you. It's a matter of perspective. Okay? It's just a matter of perspective and looking at things a different way. I thought twice or 3 times or a lot about whether or not I was going to read you this. I'm going to read this to you though, because nobody's left yet. But I'm going to leave you with one more thing that my father wrote. He quite literally wrote this on his deathbed, and he did not write it to me. I feel like he wrote it to us. Okay? I feel like he wrote it to everybody he was leaving behind. It's about perspective. It's about potential. It's about attitude. It's about the thing I was talking about earlier, about inviting someone into a relationship with you that means something more than just, look at this, please buy me. Please buy me, please. Okay? I'm going to read this for you real quick and then I'll be done. He wrote, why can't I walk, God? And why can't I play and wrestle the kids at the end of each day? Why can't it be like it always was before? Why can't I play tennis or run anymore? I don't understand, God, and the price is too steep. And the echo came back, just go feed my sheep. Easy for you, you're a shepherd by trade, a rod and a staff, and you got it made. But you seem to forget that I was also a sheep, a sacrificed lamb. The cross, too, is steep. And all that I ask for your role to be is that when people see you, they also see me. Because, Bob, we're together while climbing this hill. We're living each day seeking God's will. A miracle is happening, and joy follows sorrow. But we need a perfect vantage point from which to view tomorrow. Your weakness makes me stronger, and my strength is all we need. By my stripes, you're healed already. So let's find a flock to feed. And that's a powerful statement. Again, it wasn't written to me. It was written to us. And there's a great perspective on perspective and what we can look for, what we should be engaging ourselves in on a day-to-day basis. Belief or not, faith aside, how can you influence the people around you? What can you do every single day? It doesn't have to be grand to be great. Okay? It doesn't have to be grand to be great. You can do little things every day that have a powerful influence on everybody. Now, the last thing, I lied a second. The last thing I'm going to talk about real quick, you're going to hear a lot of great speeches. You're going to hear a lot of great people talking about aspirations and inspirations and doing that thing because you can change the world. I'd like to leave you with this. No matter what any of these other people might tell you, I don't think you should reach for the stars. That would be a huge waste of time. Yeah, because I don't even think most of you could reach the ceiling. Okay, that's all for me. I appreciate you. I thank you for allowing me to